Wow, nice turnout. Okay. So, hello to all of you who have logged on to join us for this webinar tonight, all about scholarships at the University of King's College. I'll just start by introducing myself. Um, my name is Yolana Wassersag. I'm the Recruitment and Admissions Manager. And I also have another very friendly face online with me, my colleague Sarah, and I'll just allow Sarah, Dr. Cliff to introduce herself.
Hey, thanks, Yoli. Hi, everyone. Pleasure to see you coming into the webinar. So welcome. My name is Sarah Clift, and I am the Vice President of King's, and I'm also a faculty member here at King's. So I teach in the foundation year program and in contemporary studies as well. But for the purposes actually of this webinar, the topic of this webinar, I am the chair of the scholarship committee. So you guys are here to learn about scholarships, how to apply for a scholarship, etc. Anyway, that is in my wheelhouse since I'm the chair of the committee. So I'll have lots to say a little bit later on about tips and tricks for a good application.
So before we get started, just a few kind of quick housekeeping notes. I realize this is a webinar, so we're all in different places around Canada. Maybe some of you are joining us from the United States or somewhere else in the world. Um, so we're kind of meeting in a virtual space. In reality, I right now am in Mi'kma'ki. I'm in Chibuktuk, which is also known by its English name, Halifax. And here at King's, we're all part of Mi'kma'ki. I always want to start just by acknowledging that even though we're meeting in a virtual environment, sometimes when we're doing these webinars, I know that you can see me and hear me, but I cannot see or hear you. And it feels a little bit like talking into a void sometimes. You don't have to do this at all if you're feeling shy, but if you want to type into the chat and just say like hi and where you're from, that's always really nice. It lets Dr. Clifton and I know that somebody is out there. But even if you don't feel like participating at all, you don't have to. I also want to let you know that we are recording tonight's webinar. So if something happens with your Wi-Fi, if you have to leave early, don't worry. Everyone who signed up for this webinar is going to get a recording, a link to the recording that they can watch. I'll have it in your inbox like within 2 business days max. Um, and the last thing to know is we have lots of time at the end for questions. So if you have, we're going to try to give you tons of useful information. And if you have other questions you want to ask, you can. And you know what? Thank you so much to the folks who are saying hello. We've got folks from various places in Nova Scotia, Halifax, Chester, Cape Breton, and then someone all the way from Vancouver and Alberta. What's up, West Coasters? It's nice to have you here. Here in Atlantic Canada, it's 8 p.m. already, so it's a little bit earlier in the evening for the folks on the West Coast. So to all of you, thanks so much for being here. Okay, before we dive in with lots of content, I also just want to say who we're trying to reach tonight. So hopefully, if you're logged into this session, you are someone who is applying for an undergraduate program and are planning to enter King's in this coming September, September 2025. If you're a student who's applying for a graduate program, like our Masters of Journalism or our MFA programs or our advanced 1 year Bachelor of Journalism, I got to say the content of this webinar, we don't have enough time to get into the graduate scholarships tonight. We're going to focus on undergraduate. If you're a graduate applicant and you have questions about scholarships, please don't hesitate to reach out. Admissions@ukings.ca is the best way to reach myself and my colleagues with your questions. And this webinar is also for future King students, incoming King students, students who are considering Kings. We won't be covering that much about our internal scholarships that are in-course awards for students who are already enrolled at Kings. We have those. We do have scholarships that you can get as a current King student, but we're focusing today on prospective students. So hopefully, if you're listening to this webinar, that describes you. Maybe you're also the parent or guardian or loved one of a student in that category. So I'm sharing my screen here, and what you can see is the King's website at ukings.ca. And what I'd like to do is take you to where you can go on our website if you are looking for detailed information about scholarships, and we'll talk through some of the key pieces. Before we get there, I just want to highlight on our website right now, the big button right in the middle of the screen is reminding you that we have an open house event coming up. So for those of you who are in and near Nova Scotia or Halifax or could get here, just heads up, Saturday, February 22nd is our winter open house. It's going to be really fun. If you think you'd like to come, please register. And if you're someone who is listening to this and you have not already applied to King's, everyone who comes to that winter open house has access to a waived application fee. So that's a great reason to come. Okay, my plug for winter open house is done. Now we get to talk about scholarships. In the main menu of the website, if you click on admissions and then on finances, you will see a bunch of useful information. Financial aid down here has a lot of details about things like loans and bursaries. And scholarships has the section for scholarships for new undergraduate students. That's you. It also has the section on graduate and advanced students, returning students, and even some awards that are available for graduating students. So we're going to focus on this category here, new undergraduate students. The main thing to know about King's scholarships is that for new incoming students, there's two different kinds of scholarships, and they have slightly different processes. So the first kind that you'll hear about are general entrance scholarships. That's right up here. General entrance scholarships are really straightforward. As an applicant, you are really not doing any extra work to be considered for these scholarships. So all you need to do is apply to King's by March 1st, and we will automatically consider you for one of these awards. You're not going to fill out a supplemental application form. You're not going to submit any other special documents. We're just going to consider you automatically for a general entrance award. And we're going to consider you based on your admissions average. So when we talk about our admissions averages right here, if you have at least an 85 admissions average, you are guaranteed to get a scholarship that starts at $2,000 and is renewable. And you can see that if you have a really, really strong average coming out of high school, a 95 plus, those general entrance scholarships start at $3,500 and they are renewable. The word admissions average is a little different. We're not talking about an average of every single class you took all through high school. So it's not your overall high school average, it's just your admissions average. And so the admissions average means just the average of the 5 classes on your high school transcript that we actually look at when we're deciding if we can admit you to the university. Depending on the program you're entering, those 5 classes might vary, but most of the time we're looking at your grade in your English class and then 4 other academic subjects that you took in grade 12. Or if you're applying to a Bachelor of Science program, we're looking at an English grade and also a math grade and 3 other academic subjects. So we're going to average together those grades. That's what we're going to be looking at to determine if you meet the minimum admissions requirements for the university. And when we average those together, if you have at least 85, you're guaranteed to get a scholarship. So for the general entrance awards, that's all you need to do. Just apply to the university by March 1st, and you'll find out right away when you get an admissions letter if you've been awarded a scholarship. Another important piece of this to know, especially that it's now early February, I might be talking to some folks in this webinar who applied pretty early this year. Maybe you applied in October or November or December, and you applied during our early admission period. And if you did that, we would have been looking at your early admissions grade. We might have been looking at some of your grade 11 classes instead of more of your first semester grade 12 classes. So if you were already offered a scholarship because you were admitted during the early admissions period, then we're getting to about the time of the year where we're going to be getting some upgraded grades from you, some updated grades from you, like your first semester of grade 12 grades. And if your admissions average has gone up because you really knocked it out of the park in the first half of grade 12, then if we can bump you up to the next scholarship level, we will. So if we originally awarded you a $2,000 entrance award because your average was an 87, and then you worked really hard and now your average is a 90, we're going to bump you up. So you'll see that process happen all on its own. Again, you're not filling out any supplemental forms. So hopefully that helps to kind of clarify some of the main questions about general entrance scholarships. Feel free to ask more during the Q&A if you have questions about those. And I'm going to move on to the other category of scholarship we have, which are called major entrance scholarships. For major entrance scholarships, again, the deadline that you need to keep in mind is March 1st. So you've got about a month. And for these awards, there is a supplemental application. There is a separate step that you need to take where you fill out the scholarship application and you indicate which awards you want to be considered for. And there's a bunch of major awards. So I can take a look here and show you where you can read detailed information about all of them. This is a list of major awards that we offer, uh, and they all have their own specific set of criteria. And if you click on them, all of that information will become clear. So we'll start by taking a look at the SOBI scholarship. You can see that it has a total value of 50,000. So it's our most valuable scholarship that we offer. And if you click on it and expand the information, you'll see all the criteria. So for example, students entering any program can be awarded this scholarship. But as you can see, preference is given to students entering the foundation year program. This scholarship can only be given to Canadian citizens, and a little bit of preference is given to Atlantic Canadians. That's something to keep in mind. But there's definitely been students from all across Canada that have won it in the past. You can see the minimum grades we're looking for, the annual value, if the reward is renewable. You can also see how many of them we have to give away. So there's going to be 2 SOBI scholars each year. And then the important stuff is the information about how to apply. So yes, a separate scholarship application, a PDF application is required to be considered for this award. And that's going to include writing an original essay. So you can see all of that detail there. Let's compare it to another one of our other major awards. So how about we take a look at, for example, the Dr. Carrie Best Scholarship. As you can see, this one is also open to students entering all programs. It is exclusively for students who are Black Canadian or Indigenous students in Canada, and who have really strong academic credentials with at least an 85% average. You can see the annual value of $5,000. One is available each year. There's the same PDF application and the same original essay topic. And Dr. Clift is going to talk a little bit more about that essay topic in just a moment. Or to give you another example, the Colin Starnes Award. This one is exclusively for students from Nova Scotia, right? So all of these major awards each have their own set of criteria. I don't think there's anyone who's eligible for literally all of them, but most people are eligible for more than one. So you can apply for more than one. There's one application form for them. So it's a pretty streamlined process to apply for multiple awards. And if you're sitting around thinking, oh, maybe I shouldn't apply because I don't think I'm going to get one, that's defeatist thinking. Don't think that way. The only way that you can find out if you're going to get one of these awards is by applying for it. So we strongly encourage you to apply. It is worth it to put yourself out there. The students who actually win these are always like surprised and delighted that they won them. And they always say that they're so happy that they decided to do it and write the application form. If they hadn't written the application form, they would have never known. So they're pretty valuable awards. Give yourself a shot. Don't be down on yourself. Give it a try. You can do it. Like we believe in you. And even if you aren't someone who's awarded one of these awards, the process of writing it is a good skill. It's going to teach you things about yourself. It's going to teach you things about your ability to write and express yourself. It is worth doing. So we strongly recommend it. So as I said, you can look through all of the criteria for all the awards. I just want to show you what the application form looks like before I turn things over to Dr. Clift to talk a little bit about the original essay. So I'll click right here on the Ralph and Carrie Wright Memorial Scholarship. As you can see, this one also requires an application. So let me just open up the application so you can see what that looks like. Here's the application form. It's a PDF. It'll give you instructions about how to download this PDF and fill it out. You can click on the awards that you are eligible for. So you can click on more than one here. And then you're putting in some pretty basic information about yourself, your name, date of birth, your student number, which starts with B00 or sometimes B01, is on your acceptance letter to King's. So if you've already received an acceptance, that's where you can find your student number. And then you have a little bit of space in this PDF form to answer some questions. So you're going to be, talking a little bit about yourself, and your eligibility for the awards. Um, you're going to be talking about things like extracurricular activities, for example. There's some room in here for some other information. What else would you like us to know about you, for example? And then we get into a section where you're putting in your essay topic. Um, we'll come back to that in a moment. At the very end, there's a little checklist just to make sure that you've covered all the ground, and then you sign it and date it and send it in. So that's all there is to the application form. It's not a huge application form, and like I said, you have about a month to fill it out. So you have some time to really focus on what you want to say. So I'm going to turn things over now. Just go back to the website here and show you our essay topic. Um, and I'll let Dr. Cliff talk a little bit about this topic and what kinds of things the scholarship committee is looking for. And Sarah, you're on mute. I'm so sorry to do that to you. Happens to all of us.
Course I had to do that. Yeah. I mean, 4 years after the pandemic, and I'm still speaking muted. So welcome everybody. So as I said at the beginning, for those of you that maybe came a little bit late, my name is Sarah Clift and I'm the vice president of the university. But for the purposes of our webinar tonight, I'm actually the chair of the scholarship committee. And this is really one of my happiest kind of tasks at the university as vice president, is to kind of guide the scholarship committee through all of the scholarship applications we receive every year. So what I'm here to do tonight is to just kind of demystify the process a little bit, give you a sense of, in my years of doing this, sort of what kind of what are really good ways to kind of strengthen your essay and your application as a whole, and what kind of really appeals to the scholarship committee as a group. Now, first of all, the scholarship committee is made up solely of professors from the university. Okay, so everyone who is adjudicating and assessing the applications, everyone is a scholar in their own right. Many of them teach in the foundation year program, and if not in the foundation year program, then in other programs. So we have come together and developed this topic. It is a topic that we chose, and you probably notice right from the get-go, given the prompt, I just have to move my little tiles with Yoli and I in them. Okay, so you'll see on the screen there, original essay topic. So it gives you a quote, and the quote is, learning to live with ambiguity is learning to live with how life really is. Okay, and the really most basic prompt or instruction is write an essay that tries to explain what this notion might mean. Okay, so right off the bat, we're not looking for a response that says yes, that says no, that kind of just takes a position. Is this right? Is it wrong? We've chosen this quotation because it's kind of thought-provoking, right? And it's kind of, you could have lots to say about that quotation. You might have questions about the quotation, like that. So the little prompt goes on to say it could mean many things in many different contexts, and you do not need to adopt a strong agree, disagree position in your essay. So what you're doing, you're not doing any research for this essay. You're just trying to think about what this might mean. Okay. And of course, you're going to use your thinking and you're going to use your own experience. You might even, be, drawn to a book you read in some high school class, for example, or on summer holiday, whatever. And that, please draw freely from that. What we mean by not doing research is you're not going to go to the library and get a book out on ambiguity and start quoting from it. You just want to rely on your own wits, your own writing skill, your thought process, etc. So you'll see down at the bottom of the essay prompt, it says the strongest papers will examine the problem from more than one angle, show evidence of creative thinking, and express ideas in clear, structured, and interesting ways. Now, first of all, what I want to make sure people are clear about is that in really it's strong writing with an argument in it doesn't shy away from positions that don't agree with your own. You should feel perfectly free to suggest that maybe somebody thinks the opposite of what you do about this quotation. Kind of allowing them space in your argument, like space for disagreement, is actually a very, very, it's a sign of a very strong writer, a confident writer, and that's certainly what we're looking for. Okay, so that's one thing I want to point out. Don't feel like you need to sort of own the whole ground, and you're kind of talking about this. Ambiguity is itself an ambiguous idea. So if you want to include perspectives that differ from your own, then all the better. Okay. So that's one thing I want to let you know about. The other thing is that we use the both the essay that you're going to be writing for these applications, but also the little text boxes that you're going to be filling out that Yolana showed you on the the common application. Feel free to speak about your own experience. These essays and those text boxes are the ways in which the scholarship committee gets to know you a little bit. And I tell you, there's nothing more satisfying for those of us on the scholarship committee looking at, students who are coming to King's, and it's a very exciting thing to get to know you a little bit. So don't be afraid of having your own voice and your own perspective shine through. All of you will have lots of interesting lived experience that you've thought about and reflected upon. And we want to hear about that. And we want to hear, even in your response to the essay topic, we want to hear your own viewpoint, your own experience kind of coming out in that essay. Okay. So I guess what I'm saying is respond to the essay question in a way that tells us something, not just about what you think, but about how you think and where you're coming from, that kind of thing. It's very, very helpful, gives us a real sense of who you are and what you're arguing, and it makes your paper really dynamic and kind of jump off the page. That's definitely a piece of advice I always give. The other one is, start fairly soon. We've just entered February. So you have about 3.5 weeks. And really the art of this essay is kind of, being able to take some notes and then walk away from them for a couple of days and then take some more notes, etc. Like, things are going to occur to you once you start mulling over the essay topic. And so give yourself some time just to kind of reflect on it a little bit in kind of a playful way. Don't kind of sit down and think, okay, I have to start at the beginning and write this from start to finish right now. Or if you do that, make sure you're editing, going back, checking it again, because chances are the essay topic is designed to take a little time to kind of mature in your head, and so that you're able to come to a position that you feel strongly about. Okay, so let yourself shine through, let your own personality shine through. We're always really, really happy to hear about anything you want to kind of share with us in that regard. And as I said, the essay topic doesn't have a clear yes or no, right, wrong answer. So you're going to present us with a position that you're going to take on the on this quotation, and you're going to help us be persuaded, right? So at the beginning of your essay, and the essay is not long, it's, I think, Yoli, you're going to have to help me with this. I think it's maybe a maximum of 500 words. Is
Maximum
that
of
right?
500, yep, that's right. 500 words
Yeah.
is very short.
It's very short, which is another reason why you should start early, because it always takes a little bit more time to write a short paper than it does a long one. I think it was Mark Twain that said that. I didn't have time to write a short essay, so I wrote a long one instead. So it takes a little time to craft a nice sort of short-ish essay. Um, and we want to be able to kind of, you're going to start it with your thesis statement, what you're going to argue, what perspective you're going to argue. And then you're going to spend the rest of the essay persuading your readers, that is us on the scholarship committee, of how compelling your argument is. Okay. I think maybe that's probably all I have to say for right now. I will say we read every word of every application and always really, really look forward to them. So I am happy to take questions. Yoli, if anybody has questions, to put them in the chat or
Actually, folks, if any of you have questions, it's the chat's great, but actually there's a Q&A feature in
oh
Zoom.
yeah.
A little bit more convenient because it helps us keep the questions a little organized. So if you do have questions and you're thinking about them right now, I'd encourage you to throw them into the Q&A. Um, and while you're thinking of questions, putting them in, I might just share a few additional little details that are relevant. So we talked a little bit about these major awards up here, these ones here, which usually require a supplemental application form and the essay that Dr. Cliff was talking about. There's also a few that don't require that essay that I just want to highlight for you. A really big one would be the Deborah Dean Little and Robert Little Academic Scholarships for Varsity Athletes. Oof, that's a long name for a scholarship. Sometimes we just call them the Dean Little Awards. But these awards are, specifically for students who are coming into the foundation year program, but who are also going to be participating in varsity athletics. And at King's, that means playing on our men's or women's basketball, soccer, rugby teams, our co-ed badminton team, or our women's volleyball team. And for these awards, you can see they're valued at $5,000 a year, so $20,000 total. There's a whopping 14 of them to give out each year. That's pretty significant. And there's no additional application form required for this, but you do need to have a recommendation from the director of athletics. And so if you're someone who is thinking of playing a varsity sport for Kings, my hope is that by the time we're in February, maybe you've already reached out to the coach for that team and started chatting with them. If you haven't, I would really encourage you to, because basically the coach is going to bat for you and trying to suggest that you might be the right person to get one of these awards is how you would end up getting one. So that's an important piece to figure out. Um, Additionally, the Sylvia D. Hamilton Award, which is open to African Canadian, preference given to African Nova Scotian students, does not have a supplemental application form. And if you want to be considered, really all you're doing is sending an email to awards@ukings.ca. So some of these major awards do not require the application to be considered. There are also a couple other awards at Kings to be aware of. I'm going to flow by here, but um, the awards we've talked about tonight are mostly the ones that are kind of organized like centrally through the university's registrar's office and admissions office. But there's a few that you can apply for that are related to other areas in the university. We definitely get a lot of students that are really passionate about singing and are interested in the choir at King's. And it's worth knowing that the choral program has its own pool of scholarships to give out. And there's also an award called the King's Theatrical Society Award, which is something that you might be eligible for if you're really passionate about theater in your community and local theater. And again, these ones don't have that long application form. They do have some other details about how you can apply. But I know that some questions are coming into the Q&A, and before I get to those, there's one last piece that I want to say about scholarships, which is that many King students get an entrance scholarship, and there's also, some recipients every year for these major awards. These major awards, we want to give them out. We want to give out all of them every year. That's our goal. But in addition to these, there's all sorts of organizations outside of King's that are separate to King's that hand out scholarships. External funding is available. And if you are proactive and do a little bit of research, you might discover that there are tons of awards out there that you could be eligible for, that you could apply for, that are external to King's, but that could help fund your education. So just to give you some examples, it might be the case that your parent or guardian's workplace has a human resources department, and that department offers scholarships to the children of employees. That kind of thing happens a lot. If you have a parent or guardian or even a grandparent who is a veteran, there may be scholarships that you're available for. If you are a member of a religious community, you might want to reach out to your local church, synagogue, mosque, temple, etc., because they may have scholarship programs that you're eligible for. So there are lots of awards out there. And I know students that have really done their research and have found tons of external sources of funding as well that they've applied to their education, along with applying for internal awards that King's offers. So now that I've put in my pitch for doing a bunch of research to find those awards opportunities out there, let me dive into the questions that y'all are asking in the Q&A. Oh, and just as I said that, my mouse has kind of frozen up on me. Okay. And thank you to all of you who are asking questions, by the way. Okay, there's a great question right here that says, are these scholarships available after deferral, or would you need to reapply for a start date of fall 2026? This is a great question. If you are admitted to King's and you defer your offer of admission, if you've been awarded one of those general entrance scholarships, those are the automatic scholarships where there's no supplemental application, that award is going to defer with you. So your general entrance scholarship, you don't need to be reconsidered for it. It's just going to automatically roll over to the next year. However, the major awards, you would need to reapply. It's a separate category. So that's an important piece to keep in mind if you're thinking about deferring an offer of admission. There's another great question here about how a lot of our awards are for students coming straight from high school. And this person writes, I'm curious what awards are available to post-secondary transfer students and mature students. So typically transfer students are not eligible for entrance awards. That's usually not one of the categories that can get an entrance award. Transfer students are eligible for in-course awards. So if you're going from first year to second year to third year, you are eligible for any of those in-course scholarships. One of the reasons why transfer students don't usually get general entrance awards is that a lot of the time transfer students are coming in with some transfer credits, some credits from another institution that they're kind of using to reduce their course load and also reduce their tuition. So transfer students usually have some kind of cost savings built in through the process of being a transfer student. And that's why they're typically not eligible for general entrance awards. That's a great question. And then there's a nice comment here in the questions, Sarah, just saying thank you to you for your helpful summary of what the scholarship committee is looking for. And you know what, right now I'm not
Yoli,
oh, yeah.
can I just point out the question that Matteo asked, which I think is helpful just in case other people didn't see it. I responded in writing. So Matteo asked whether or not they could use the same essay for multiple awards. And I think that's just to make that clear to everyone. And of course, we're encouraging people to apply for as many awards as makes sense for you, given the criteria of the award, then you use the same essay. It's all you're doing is checking boxes as to which scholarships rather, you're eligible for and that you're applying for. But it's one essay, and the essay is the same if you apply for one scholarship as if you apply for five. It's just the same response, regardless.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really, really great point. Really great question. Um, Nobody has asked this one yet, and I'm surprised that nobody's asked. But one thing that's always in people's mind is, when will I find out if I won one of these awards? So the answer to that is, for the general entrance scholarships, you find out the minute you're admitted. It's on your acceptance letter to King's. If you've been admitted to the university and you're eligible for a general entrance award, it's right there on your acceptance letter. Um, for these major awards, the scholarship committee really reads all of these, and they work really hard to get answers to people quickly. Most of the time, people know by early April.
Mhm.
But it's important to note that two of the awards listed here, uh, it's not the case that just the internal scholarship committee are the only people making the decision. Because for some of these awards, what our scholarship committee does is they come up with a short list of their preferred candidates, and then they send that short list off to another foundation that gets to make the final call. And so that's the case with the Sobey scholarship. Um, the Sobey Foundation is going to get a short list from King's, and they're going to make an assessment and tell us who they think we should give the award to. And that's also the case with the McCain Scholarship. And so it is important to note with those awards in particular, where the decision's not just being made internally at King's, sometimes that can take a little longer to get answers back to students. We typically will let you know if you're on the short list. So that's usually something that we try to get to students. And I will say, out of all of these awards, the McCain one is a little bit different. Um, while the rest of them all have that one comprehensive application form that is the one that I showed you earlier, the McCain Award does have, uh, oh yeah, its own slightly different Harrison McKenna Foundation Award. Um, and it has some information in it, because this one is also based not just on merit, but also based on financial need. So you can see that asks some questions about those subjects on the application form. So it's a little bit of a different award, but it is the same essay topic. So that's how that works. Um, great. Okay, I'm just going to take a look at our Q&A here to see if any other questions have come in. The questions that were asked were just really great ones. If you have the type of question where you're like, oh, there's things I want to ask about that are really specific to me, I don't really feel like asking them in this webinar. It feels a little personal to ask it in this webinar. I totally get that. That's okay. We're still here for you. If that applies to you, then you can always email, I'm going to put it in the chat, admissions@ukings.ca or awards@ukings.ca, either one of those email addresses. Um, and we can answer your question in a like one-on-one way, in a case-by-case basis. You can also reach out to any member of the recruitment and admissions team. You can book virtual appointments with us. You can give us a call. There's lots of ways to reach us. I mentioned up top that we're recording tonight's webinar, and that I'll send you a link to this recording tomorrow, or no, if not tomorrow, the day right after that, but very, very soon. So I'll include all of those useful email addresses and contact links and all of that in the email that I send you along with the recording of the webinar, in case you want to get in touch. Well, you know what, Sarah? I'm not seeing any other questions come in. I think we just did too good a job. We answered everyone's questions. We knocked it out of the park. I'm feeling very proud of us.
Of course.
I'm gonna give it maybe 2 more minutes, just in case anyone else has like a thing they're in the middle of typing that they're curious about and they want to ask about. Oh, and while we're waiting, I should say, later this week, this Thursday night, we have another webinar that's about a related subject. So on Thursday night, we're running a webinar that's about financial aid. So we're going to be talking about things like bursaries and student loans, in that financial aid webinar, and also things like tuition payments and how they work and those pieces. A lot of times we get questions about what is the difference between a scholarship and a bursary. And the one important thing to know here is that you can have both. You can have a scholarship and a bursary. They can stack right on top of each other. So there's multiple types of financial assistance that are available to you to help you finance your education. The difference between a scholarship and a bursary is that scholarships, as we've been talking about tonight, are based on merits and accomplishments and achievements and things about who you are as a person. So things like your grades, your interests, like whether you play varsity sports or are really passionate about theater. Sometimes things like race and ethnicity are factors in scholarships. So scholarships are about who you are as a person. Bursaries are only based on financial need. So they're just based on a needs assessment. Usually, if you are someone who's getting a loan to help finance your education, you're also eligible for bursaries. There's another question that's just popped into the chat here. It's a great question. It says, are students able to be awarded more than one of the major awards? Typically, the answer here is no. If you're getting one of the major awards, then you're just going to be getting that one major award. You can also have a bursary, but you probably will not be getting another major scholarship. And the reason for that is we are trying to spread that scholarship money around and support as many students as possible with the pool of scholarship funding that's available. So we usually don't stack them up with the same individual. And I got to say that we're really lucky at King's because we have so many incredible, deserving, wonderful, talented students around here. So it's a tough decision, and being able to help as many students as possible with scholarships is a big goal. Would that be fair to say, Sarah?
Yeah, and I wonder too, Yoli, if you might say something about the general entrance scholarships and the major, because since depending on their average, they'll automatically receive these general entrance scholarships. But then what is the relationship between receiving one of these and then you write an unbelievable scholarship application and get the Sobeys offer.
Yeah. So usually if you're getting one of the big major awards, we don't also give you your general entrance scholarship. Because again, we're trying to spread the
Yeah.
funds around. So a general entrance award can kind of get trumped by a major award. But as always, you can have bursaries and scholarships. So usually you can't have two kinds of scholarships, but you can always have scholarships and bursaries. And you
Mhm.
can always have an internal King's Scholarship and an external scholarship from another organization. Those things can all stack on top of each other.
Yeah.
Uh, all right. Okay, so we've been online with you all for about 3/4 of an hour. Thank you for paying attention this whole time. I know that that's a long time to sit and listen to people talk. I'm going to stop sharing my screen just for a minute here so you can see my face and Sarah's face as we wrap things up tonight. It was really great to have you all here. I just want to reiterate again, you might still have questions. We're here for you. Please reach out by email, admissions@ukings.ca or awards@ukings.ca. Um, I know that, the faculty on the scholarship committee are really excited to see your scholarship applications and read them and get to know you a little bit better through that process. So I think with that, I'm going to say good night, and I hope that we get to hear from you soon with any other questions you have. Yeah. Take care,
Bye
everyone.
all.
Thank you.